Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank you for listening to my short little presentation on the traits and practices of online teachers and learners. I have put my contact information here. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach me. Also, if you're interested in more videos on geometry instruction, math instruction, please follow my YouTube channel, like and subscribe. I also kind of touched more on instructional technology as well in some of my videos. So let's jump right into it. Get this. The first question I kind of thought about is who are distance-based learners? Um, Often there is a reason that the learners in a distance-based environment are taking those classes. Now, a lot of times, distance-based learners are the same as the students who are sitting in front of us in a physical location. But again, we need to think about why these students are taking these classes. Often it's for their convenience. This could be because they are fully employed. They could have a family. Some of them just may think they perform better in a distance based setting. Some of them physically cannot be there. They might be from a different state, a different country. Um, they're the time that they have, they may not be able to be in the physical classroom when instruction takes place. Um, and again, these are really important to think about why students are taking this classes because this attributes to their strengths and barriers that they could have in a distance-based classroom. So when I think about barriers to success, um, one of the things that the quote that popped up from the song et al. Research was talking about the participants felt a lack of community, a lack of understanding the instructional goals and technical problems or technical challenges. Now, these are sound like things that many students face, whether it's a barrier to success in or out of the classroom. But it's one of the things that, again, really kind of stuck with me uh, as to helping online learners be successful. You need to be thinking about their barriers as well. And these are things that teachers can fix. These are very easily dealt with things that teachers can evaluate. Um, and I recommend you taking the time to pause this video and read through this quote exactly because, again, it really resonates with these are things that teachers can deal with. Again, we can teach students time management strategies. We can teach students um, how to deal with the technology in the classroom. We can be more clear with our instructional goals, etc. Now, the needs of distance learners, again, kind of based on those barriers. One is a lot of the needs of distance learners are very similar to face learning. A classroom or the learning in a face-to-face classroom. I focused on these first. One is a social atmosphere. You need to have a sense of community, a sense of belonging. I put another quote by Song et al. From that research in this slide as well. I'd recommend you pausing it and reading through that. Um, Students also need, in a distance learning environment, they need feedback. They need to be assessed frequently. They need to know what they're doing right. They need to know what they're doing wrong. They need to know the objectives and they need to know what is expected of them. Um, they also need direct interventions based on that frequent feedback. And they need a trained educator to support them. Um, the instruction needs to be from someone who is trained with the purpose of instructing them over distance learning. Now, I kind of grouped some other needs of distance learners um, or distance based learners that are unique to a distance based classroom, or I thought were more unique to this classroom. One is digital literacy training. As an educator, we should be pre assessing our students not only on their content level, but we should also be assessing them on their digital literacy level to see what type of supports we can deliver to them to help them be more successful in our classroom. In distance based learning, technology is part of that. They need to be able to communicate with us. Um, they need simplified communication with peers and instructors. It needs to be easy for them. One of the quotes from the song et al., another one from there that's going to be coming up, is talking about utilizing the simplest form of technology to meet the needs of our students. Uh, they're going to need access to digital resources. Um, The next two were ones that I found very interesting, both from the Brindley chapter. One of them was virtual learning spaces, something that I had not heard of before. And this is more of like a trying to supplement some of the online or the physical learning spaces in a university, like cafes, um, kind of like these group learning spaces that take place in a physical learning situation, and trying to create that in a distance learning situation. This can be in the form of social media or blogs. I also thought peer mentorship was really a cool idea. um, allowing again, this helps foster community within the classroom, and it also allows students who have a little bit more experience with e-learning, and distance-based learning, to be able to mentor students who may not have that experience already. Going back to barriers, assistance with time management. This could be directly from the instructor. The instructor could give them a weekly schedule that could really help them out. Um, Clearly stated learning objectives. Again, one of the things in that quote from that kind of opened us up was exemplary work, providing models. Students need to see what is expected of them. Um, and then another, again, not necessarily unique to face or to distance-based learning, would be regular check-ins and office hours. Even though a lot of these asynchronous learning kind of takes place at the discrepancy of the learner, it's still really important, or important for the instructor to be checking in with his learners. Learners also need to know about their supports. In the Song et al. Research, it said that institutions need to be proactive about sharing the resources, and also training their educators as to how to meet those resources as well. Um, Here's some traits of successful distance-based learners. Again, these are not all of them. These are just ones that kind of resonated through all the readings. I'm not going to read through all of them, but I want to try and pick out a few that I thought were really important. One was effective time management and effective communicator. Right? You need to be able to do those things. You need to be flexible as a learner. You need to be able to um, kind of be able to adapt what your learning style to the distance-based learning platform. Being experienced with technology, or being willing to learn about technology. You don't need to be great with technology. You just need to be ready to say, okay, this is something I need to learn about. Now let's start moving towards the instructor. I put a nice quote here from the McCabe Gonzalez Flores reading. I would strongly recommend taking the time to pause this video and read through that. Talking about, as a teacher, it is our job to decide what's going to be best for our students. Is it going to be best for our students to adapt our work to their needs? Or is it more important to train the students to be outside of their comfort zone and learn through the means that's most effective for the teacher? Again, kind of a nice little thing to think about, really kind of brain thing to pick about as we go through this. Hey, Marla, say hi. It's my cat. Um, Next is the attitudes of the teacher towards distance-based learning. Now, attitudes of teachers, again, I tried to focus on the positive attitudes of teachers. Teachers must be willing to adapt their knowledge to um, distance-based education. Now, the content knowledge tends to be the same, but they need to be ready to adapt their pedagogical knowledge and their technical knowledge to this platform, because those two things are different in a distance-based learning platform. Next, they must see and value, or they must see the value and validity of distance-based education. If a teacher doesn't see this as being valid, then their instruction cannot be effective, in my opinion. They must also value and foster digital literacy in learners. They must see that as being an important element of not only their content area, but the necessary skill set of the learners in their classroom. Also, they must value and foster social presence and community in learners. These are things that, from our previous readings, we've realized that it is critical for student success that they have a social presence and a sense of community. And it's the role of the educator to foster that. They need to be able to foster that type of learning. If they don't value that in digital literacy, I don't feel they're going to be an effective distance-based educator. I wanted to take a little note because in the last slide I talked about technical knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, and content knowledge. So I brought up figure one from the major reading or the major chapter, which brought up the TPAC model. I would strongly recommend pausing this, looking through this model, and seeing, well, which areas of this are going to be affected or need to change from face to face learning to distance based learning. Now, needs of distance based educators. Obviously, if you're going to be teaching something on a new platform, you need to have professional learning. Now, the focus of this professional learning, in my opinion, should be on course design, that digital pedagogy or that PK that from the TPAC, and seeing how that's going to change. Obviously, the technology or LMS they're going to be using, fostering communication, and also whatever institution they're working with, their priorities when it comes to distance based learning. I thought this was a nice quote from the major reading as well. Individuals experience pedagogy differently online and on site. Thus, our knowledge of pedagogy necessarily changes as the technology becomes an extension of ourselves. Um, and the way I kind of thought about this is like proximity, right? In a physical setting, teachers can use proximity, a pedagogical strategy, to help address engagement, help address motivation, concentration. Now, obviously, proximity can't be used in a distance-based setting. We have to use some sort of digital proximity or digital check-ins to ensure, again, that engagement, motivation, attention. Again, just something to think about. The impacts of the institution. Now, this goes to LMS. Obviously, the institution is going to be choosing your learning management provider or learning management server. So you don't get to choose that technology. You also, depending upon your institution, they might have contracts with certain agents or contracts with certain websites where you have to use these websites as opposed to one. Like you can't use Pear Deck, you have to use Schoology, or you can't use Kahoot, you have to use Quizzes. Um, Also, you have to follow the school's mission, values, and purpose. If the school prides itself on having small class sizes, you're going to have smaller class sizes or larger class sizes. Also, the school or institution may be providing you with a curriculum and resources, so you don't have the autonomy there. And lastly, is teacher evaluation. Now, obviously, if you're being an educator, you're going to be evaluated on your success. And the institution determines what is the criterion for success. And that in turn has its impact on your pedagogical tactics in the classroom. Impacts on learners. Now, obviously, this is incredibly important. The way we teach should be based on our learners. That is no different between face to face and distance learning. Learning needs to be based on the backgrounds of our students, their digital literacy. We need to tailor our instruction to those learners and then build a community to meet the needs of the learners individually and in totality. When it comes to the beliefs of the teachers, I broke these down into two separate categories. I think that the beliefs of the teachers, they retain their personality, they retain their personal philosophy and their ideas of what is the role of the teacher. And that's kind of the content knowledge. I think the differences in beliefs and practices come more towards the pedagogical knowledge and um, the technological knowledge. So when it comes to the development and practices, obviously teachers who are teaching in a digital space need to foster and focus on skills that are needed for that digital space. So that would be, again, digital community, digital social presence, and also teaching that digital literacy. Those practices are going to be more focused in a distance-based classroom. Again, we need to, as educators, need to focus on the needs of our students, and those needs are different based on their location or proximity to us. Lastly, I wanted to end here the references for the work that I shared. If you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, please like and subscribe on my YouTube channel for additional supports. I hope you guys are all doing well and have a great rest of the day.